Hi Storytime lovers! There are so many reasons to love Christmas. Caroling, trimming, rejoicing, gathering, feasting. One of my favorite parts of Christmas is going through my children's bookcases and getting out all the Christmas stories. And we never go 1 year without Stickman, Olivia, Mog, and the Grinch. Now, I know that for many of us, Christmas won't be quite the same this year. But we can and we should make it magic. And I really hope I can bring some Christmas spirit into your homes by sharing my favorite Christmas books with you. Sharing time with your family is one of the most special, most beautiful moments of Christmas. Moments that are usually filled with love, laughter, and a lot of going on. The first 3 books I have selected for you are about Christmas family time. If you are not yet familiar with this very little cheeky pig named Olivia, then you are about to fall in love with her. Olivia always sets out with the best of intentions, but things don't always go as planned. She has this crazy imagination, which means there are no limits to what she can plan. In this story, illustrated in gold, black, red, and green, Olivia wants to help with Christmas. Now, just looking at the book cover, you can already tell she's got herself into a very tricky situation, standing on her tippy toes and with the Christmas tree strangely bending sideways. Now, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but just let me read you a couple of pages. By 4 o'clock, Olivia was getting impatient. "Sweetheart, Santa won't be here for hours," said her mother. "Now, wipe that soot off your snout and help me untangle these lights." "Mommy!" Just look at the mess she has got herself into. This is typical Olivia. In this story, we follow Olivia on Christmas Eve, who tries to help with trimming the tree, with Christmas dinner, getting Santa's snack ready, and it always turns out differently than expected. I'm sure you all know the Gruffalo. Well, in this book, by the same famous author, Donaldson, and illustrator, Axel Scheffler, you may recognize some famous characters from previous books like the fox and the squirrel. Like all of Donaldson's books, what makes this so delightful to listen to and read is the rhyming text. It may not seem obvious at first that this is a Christmas story, especially with the seaside pictures at the beginning, but hang on in there and you might get a cameo from the most famous Christmas characters of all, who plays an important part in helping Stickman. So, who is Stickman? Stickman is a family man. In fact, Stickman lives in the family tree with his stick lady love and the stick children 3. One day, he wakes early and goes for a jog. "Stickman, oh Stickman, beware of the dog." And that's how Stickman unwillingly embarks on a very long adventure to try and get back to his family. Grandpa Christmas, a book written by Michael Morpurgo and illustrated by Jim Field, is a book that will teach children, parents and grandparents to think differently about Christmas presents. It's a story about celebrating happiness, family time, and most of all, the wonders of the world. It's the story of a grandfather who decides to give his granddaughter Mia a very different Christmas present, a letter. To my granddaughter Mia from her grandpa. "Dearest little Mia, this Christmas, instead of a Christmas card, you'll have plenty of those, and instead of a present, you'll have plenty of those too. I am sending you a letter from Grandpa. Not very exciting perhaps, but at least it will be different. Scrunch it up if you want to, but I don't think you will." In this letter, he talks about his wishes for Mia's future and encourages her to take care of the planet. "Have you ever seen a picture of us, of this Earth of ours, from space, Mia? We are a bright blue bead spinning through infinity, a beacon of life. But one day, if we do not take care of her, this good earth of ours will be as arid and lifeless as the moon. The life of this world is as fragile as you are, as I am, as trees are, as butterflies and bees and birds are, as worms and frogs are, as plants are. If I have learnt one thing for sure in my long life, 73 this year, Mia, and that's old, it is this: Earth is a living, breathing being, and we must hurt her no more. Just like Stickman, Grandpa Christmas takes us through all the seasons, reminding us that even if Christmas is the most magical part of the year, we must take care of each other all year round. It's a moving and powerful message from a grandfather to his granddaughter to tell her to take care of the earth. And I might go as far as to say that Michael Morpurgo, the author of this book, is in a way Grandpa Christmas, telling all the children to take care of the earth so that each child that reads the book is in a way Mia. And this book got me thinking, why not write a letter this year to a loved one, a parent, a friend, a sibling? Giving something special that can be kept and cherished throughout the years is such a beautiful idea. Now, it's not always possible to spend Christmas with your family, and many of you might be deciding this year not to gather in order to protect your loved ones. But there are also people who don't have a family to spend Christmas with, so I think it's important to take time at Christmas to celebrate friendship and the kindness of strangers. The next two books I have selected for you embody this kind of Christmas spirit. Let's start with One Snowy Night by Nick Butterworth. Just look at the book cover, which says it all. A badger, 2 ducks, a hedgehog, and a family of mice are standing in the cold on someone's doorstep. The light coming out from the open door reminds us of the first principle of Christmas, welcoming and giving shelter. The spirit of Christmas can even be seen in the family of mice who are helping out each other to climb on the stairs. One Snowy Night is the first story of the Percy the Park Keeper picture book series. Percy is a very lovable park keeper who takes care of the park and his animal friends. In this story, which of course takes place one snowy night, his animal friends are troubled by the storm. So each one approaches his house and knocks on the door to seek sanctuary within his warm cabin. But Percy's cabin is tiny, and finding space to shelter everyone quickly becomes a problem. In this very simple, straightforward story about being kind, helping out, and feeling happy, Percy gives warmth to the animals, and at the same time warms the reader's hearts. Let's not forget this is also a very humorous story, and I especially like the very funny pictures of the messy snuggling up. In Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree by Robert Barry, a Christmas treetop becomes the most shared Christmas present. Did you know that this book was published long before you were born, or before I was born? But it has what I love most about Christmas: the focus not on the present opening, but on the present sharing. So what is this about? Well, obviously there's a Mr. Willoughby and there's a Christmas tree. The story begins the day Mr. Willoughby receives his Christmas tree. But oh dear, there's a huge problem, which you can see on the book cover. That's right, the Christmas tree is too big. And because Mr. Willoughby lives in a giant mansion, the treetop they end cutting off is the size of any regular tree. So when the maid decides to put it up in her room, she has the same problem as Mr. Willoughby. So she also snips off the treetop, and, well, I'm sure you can guess what happens next. And if you can't, you have to get a copy and find out. There's one more thing I would like to mention about Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree, is that it's a message about recycling. And although the book was published in 1963, this message is more than ever a topical issue. Finally, my last selection of books for today includes 3 stories in which the characters unknowingly discover the magic of Christmas in a very untraditional way. Now, this book is even older than Mr. Willoughby's Christmas tree. It was published in the 50s when families were buying their first washing machines, even before the cassette and the Rubik's Cube were invented. This story was written by the author of The Cat in the Hat, and if you watched my fun fact video on The Cat in the Hat, you will know that his name is pronounced Dr. Seuss. That's right, Dr. Seuss. So, who is the Grinch? Well, looking at the book cover and judging by the title, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, we can tell that the Grinch doesn't look like much of a lovable character. On the opposite, really. And look at his yellow eyes that seem really evil. Now, is this a scary story? Not at all. Just like The Cat in the Hat, this story is very funny. So, what's the matter with the Grinch? Well, you know all these things that you love about Christmas? Getting the house ready, the bustle, the caroling, the feasting. Well, the Grinch, he just hates them. He can't stand them. He can't stand the noise, and you have to admit that it does sound noisy. He can't stand the feasting, and he can't stand the merry caroling. In other words, the Grinch is plain anti-Christmas. In fact, the Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. And so he hatches a plan to steal Christmas, which to him means stealing the presents, the decoration, and the food. And so what happens on Christmas morning when everyone wakes up? Well, you have to read the story to find out. Who doesn't love Mog? If you are British, chances are that Mog is part of your family's story time. She's such an endearing cat. It's impossible to resist her. And you can tell by the state of my book cover that we can't resist her either in my family. And for those of you who don't know Mog, you can listen to my reading of Mog and Bunny. Mog is a series created by the immensely gifted Judith Kerr. Another tricky name to pronounce, Judith Kerr, the author of The Tiger Who Came to Tea. Mog lives in a family with Mr. and Mrs. Thomas and their 2 children, Debbie and Nikki. One of the key ingredients which explains why this not-so-clever cat is so endearing is that all the stories are told from Mog's point of view. In this story, Mog discovers Christmas. Like most cats, Mog is very forgetful, and though it's obviously not her first Christmas, she has no idea whatsoever what is going on in her house. Mog doesn't take to all this bustle, but unlike the Grinch, she doesn't try to ruin Christmas. She just prefers to move to a quieter place, in this case, the windowsill. One of the funniest parts of the story to me comes on the next page when she is spooked by what appears to be a walking Christmas tree and takes fright. After this, she escapes to the roof and refuses to come down. The question is, will she come back down in time for Christmas? The last story I would like to recommend to you today is also the most recent one, as it was published just a month ago. The Snowflake, written and illustrated by Benji Davies, the author of The Stormwell, which I read to you just recently. By looking at the book cover, you can tell that it's the story of a little girl and a snowflake who are longing for something special. Just like Mog, the snowflake isn't aware of the fact that it is Christmas time. Her only worry is that she doesn't want to fall. High in the sky, one winter's night, a snowflake was made. She wheeled and skipped and twirled between the clouds. Whee! She squealed. Only soon she began to fall. But I don't want to fall, said the snowflake. You're supposed to fall, said a cloud. That's what snowflakes do. But I don't want to, pleaded the snowflake.
Help me, Cloud. Stop me from falling. You'll find your way, replied the Cloud. Good luck. The Snowflake wasn't at all sure. She twisted this way and that way and this way, tumbling as she fell. The Snowflake grew dizzy. Far away, in a town nestled between the hills, a little girl called Noelle and her grandpa Babby were walking home.
Now, I love the choice of the little girl's name, Noelle. It's what we call a play on words. Do you know what Noël means in French? That's right, it means Christmas. In this book, the Snowflakes takes us on a journey from high up in the sky, over hillsides, valleys, and streams, on a journey in which Noël and the Snowflake are brought together in an exquisite Christmassy moment. Well, we've reached the end of our book recommendations for today, but of course there are many, many more books I would recommend about Christmas, including the one that you might have spotted in the background, The Snowman. Please let me know about your Christmas favourites in the description box below. Thank you so much for listening. Take care and see you soon.